Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Thursday, June 6th. So we had a little bit of a mixed close today. NASDAQ and S&P down a little bit. Dow was up. Dow is still playing catch up to the NASDAQ and the S&P, which both of those made new highs yesterday. Dow is still well below its highs from a month ago. So what I want to talk about today is really, I just read this stuff and it really just continues to blow my mind. There was an article today that I saw that said the yield curve has been predicting recession for a record amount of time, but growth is still strong. So these people, you have to just sit back and look at this stuff and watch this stuff and just shake your head and think, this is where we've come to when we're talking about the understanding of economics and the monetary system, that there are the vast majority of people, and those within the discipline of economics or in the field of finance, who are considered, highly educated and at high level posts, some of them maybe even in policy posts, putting this stuff out there. And the funny thing about this article was that it didn't say the yield curve has failed to make good on its predictive, whatever. There has been no recession. No. They're saying the yield curve recession forecast. It's they're still banking on that. 5 years into the inverted yield curve. Okay. Over 5 years. Okay. Into the invert. I think we went inverted in early 2019. 5 years, so more than 5 years, almost 5.5 years into the inverted yield curve. And remember, this was always talked about as a bulletproof recession indicator. Whenever this thing went inverted, all the monetarists and the gold standard mentality thinkers, and that's really the group we're talking about here, that is the underlying reason that these people got it all wrong, is that their paradigms, their understanding is completely wrong due to the fact that they still haven't figured out that we're not on a gold standard. Banks don't borrow money to lend. They have the ability they create credit, which even if there's not enough reserves to, you have a 10-to-1 reserve ratio, even if there's not enough reserves, the Fed adds the reserves. The only constraint on lending is not the shape of the yield curve, because the bank is going if the customer is credit worthy, the bank will price the loan to make the deal, okay? The only constraint on lending has nothing to do with the shape of the yield curve. It's bank capital. Capital is the only constraint to lending, okay? That's it. It's not the shape of the yield curve. But yet, the incredible thing is that here it is again. They put that out there, still kind of clinging to this belief that this recession is coming. Now, you know what's going to happen. I can tell you right now what's going to happen. Eventually, one day, we're going to have a recession, and that will come about most likely as a result of deficit reduction. Okay? And when that happens, all of these people are going to come out and say, you see, we told you that inverted yield curve was forecasting a recession. Now, this could be 10 years from now. It could be next year. We've already gone through 5 years without a recession. But just from reading the headline of this post that I saw today, how it was framed, the language that the recession indicator, but growth is still strong. So they haven't given up on this recession indicator, moniker that they've put on the inverted yield curve, even though it's complete ridiculousness. It shows an enormous amount of ignorance and lack of understanding when it comes to how the monetary system functions, how the banking system functions under the current reality that we live in, which is we're not on a gold standard anymore. We're not on a fixed exchange rate regime anymore. Banks create credit based on credit worthiness of borrowers and the capital that they have. It has nothing to do with the shape of the yield curve because they're going to price their loan. Once they have a credit-worthy borrower, they're going to price the loan to give themselves some sort of a profit. And even if they don't have reserves, they'll make the loan. Okay, when you go into a bank and you go to the loan officer to apply for a loan, and let's say the loan officer says to you, hey, Charlie or Mike, whatever your name is, you're a good borrower, you have good income, you have low debt to income ratio, you got a good job, you got good credit rating, okay, your credit score is high. What does he do? You think he picks up the phone and calls down to the reserve desk at the bank and say, hey, Joe, do we have enough reserves here? I got Charlie right here across from me at my desk. I want to make a loan. No, they don't do that. They make the loan. They sign off on the loan. The loan gets approved based on your credit worthiness. And then if the bank doesn't have the reserves, it could get an overdraft in its account at the Fed, which the Fed immediately covers. Okay, and the bank has a 2-week period to make good on that. And the bank could borrow reserves overnight or whatever just to make good on that. So the loan itself creates a deposit and it creates reserves. Okay? That's it. That's how it works. It has nothing to do with the shape of the yield curve. But it's fascinating to me that this myth continues on. And 5 years in, more than 5 years in, they're still talking about this. They're still saying it's going to happen. And like I said, if and when a recession happens, you better believe that they're going to say it was the inverted yield curve that predicted it. Like, this is absolutely the height of folly. I don't know how much more ridiculous it can get than this. I mean, sticking with this belief, and this is like some crazy, just crazy belief that has no basis in reality. Okay, this is like some cult belief or some primitive tribe that latched on to some kind of mythology, and they're not going to let it go. They are just not going to let it go. It's the same thing that we see with the so-called national debt that's been going exponential for years and years and years, and every single year, now it's like monthly, we're getting these predictions of doom and disaster all the time, and that never, ever happens. And it's not going to happen. I explained how it could happen. Actually, the irony is the way the disaster could happen would be if they enact policy to actually reduce the debt. Because what that means, what reducing the debt means, is reducing the financial assets of the non-governmental sector, taking it away, taxing it away. Okay, that 35 trillion, whatever the number is, that is the amount of dollars that have not been taxed away. Those are dollars we own globally. Those are all the dollars that have ever been created since the beginning of the United States, 1787. That hasn't been taxed away. Though that's part of the wealth of the non-governmental sector. You want to take that away, you would have to take 34 trillion out of the global economy. That would create the longest lasting depression in the history of mankind. That's the irony, because in fact, if they ever wanted to address the so-called debt in the way that they understand it, where they think that the debt as it is right now, which again, it's not debt, it's just dollars being held in the form of government securities. It's like having a savings account with the government. That's our money. That's part of our wealth. It's part of the assets that we own collectively, the non-governmental sector globally. And they think that that is the time bomb, but that is exactly the reason why it has never blown up, because it cannot blow up. It's impossible for it to blow up. It's a beneficial thing. It's part of our wealth. Okay? But if they go along with their understanding of that, which is completely backward and wrong and upside down, if they go with their understanding on the idea that that must be reduced, the only way to reduce that is to take that tax that 34 trillion away, literally claw it back from the global economy. 34 trillion. That would create mass poverty on a scale never seen before. Okay, so that's another one of these mythologies, just like the inverted yield curve, that these people continue to stick to. And it doesn't matter to them that their predictions never, ever, ever come to fruition. It just doesn't matter to them. They don't pay any attention to that. Because you cannot pay attention to that if you want to maintain that mythology, if you want to maintain that cult belief. You have to pretend like the other argument, the true argument, doesn't exist. When you hear the true argument, explaining what in fact that is, you have to attack it. Okay, you have to criticize it, you have to attack it, you have to somehow twist it and turn it in a way to rationalize the way you view it. That's what's going on, right? Or you completely ignore it, and at the same time you double down, you triple down, you quadruple down on your argument, and you keep saying, one day it's going to happen. See, because then you can never be wrong. When you say one day, I could say right now, one day, the earth is no longer going to revolve around the sun. Actually, that's a truer statement than anything these guys are saying. Okay? Same thing with the yield curve. They could say right now, we don't have a recession yet. It's been 5 years, okay, with the inverted, more than 5 years with the inverted yield curve. We don't have a recession yet, but we will. And mark my words, if and when the day comes when the economy does go into recession, the first thing they're going to say is, aha, we told you that inverted yield curve was predicting recession. Folks, it's a mental illness. It's an absolute mental illness. I mean, follow it at your own peril. Follow it at your own peril. That's all I can say. Anyway, please like and subscribe if you choose to. It really helps the channel, and I would appreciate it very much. And don't forget, go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com. Sign up for a 30-day free trial of MMT Trader. See you tomorrow. Bye.